have my Happy New Year hat on. I didn't get a chance to wear it last night because I had to go be mom. So I'm wearing my Happy New Year hat. Happy New Year, everybody. Welcome to the Our Turf Football College podcast, the first one of its kind of 2025. Glad to be here. Got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight because we really haven't met since we were just talking since the brackets got announced and the playoffs got going. And so, this is going to be a great show to just kind of catch up and talk about it because there's a lot been going on. So, welcome. Glad to have y'all with us. I've got Michelle. We've got Kate. Always. How are you ladies this evening?
I'm well. I'm warm. And Kate's cold.
I'm bundled.
It is 19 degrees.
19. A whole of 19. That's freezing. That's freezing, Georgia fans. That's freezing, okay? What we have here is like 28, 30. Okay, that's cold. Yes, technically it's below freezing. So, yes, it is freezing. But it's not 19 degrees, okay? It's not.
This is the kind of adversity that we in the Big Ten are used to.
Exactly.
If it's 30 degrees in Florida, then that's similar to 19 degrees to them.
Exactly.
You have to look at it from that standpoint. I mean, if it's always 70 and 80 and 90, so, 30 degrees is a whole big difference than 80 degrees.
Yeah, I have a friend that lives in the ATL. And he says the worst thing that ever happens down there is snow because he lived in Cleveland for years and went down there. He's like, those people see it maybe once a year and they don't know what to do with it. And they sure don't know how to drive. He's like, they should just all stay home.
Exactly.
Well,
exactly.
That first snow of the year up here, they don't remember how to drive either.
Just how you
get
guys,
a couple more to get them some practice.
Right?
That's how you guys act when you go to sunny Florida. And it's so hot. It's so hot. How do you guys manage? It's the same thing.
And then I get a sunburn because I'm not paying attention to the UV rays. Like, I get it.
Same thing. They know that world. You guys know the other world. Yep.
Exactly.
I think I'd rather be cold, though. I can warm up. I don't know if it's hot.
Yeah.
You
can only take off so many things.
Right. True that.
When you're cold, you can just keep piling the blankets on, and at some point, you'll be all right.
Right.
But when you're hot, you can only take off so much.
That's where I am.
Cold shower.
Then people start calling the police, and then there's issues and
right.
walking around Walmart and next to nothing. Not good. Oh Lord, I don't know about you ladies. I am loving these playoffs. I know it's taken forever. It feels like it's stretched out weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, but most of these games have been really good. We've seen some controversial calls. We can talk about the Arizona State Texas game. Thoughts and prayers as always, not only to the people in California that are dealing with those wildfires right now.
Yes.
But back on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, you had that situation go on in New Orleans. You had a whole lot of Georgia and Notre Dame fans in town thinking they were going to play on the first of the year. And I'm gonna stay away from descriptive words. Someone decided to take a truck and kill a whole bunch of people and caused a whole lot of problems. And so they delayed it a day. For as much as people complained and as much as I worried about the logistics of the travel, like you couldn't have paid me to be at a hotel or an airline taking all the phone calls from people who had to move their travel a day. But I think moving the game back one day was just the best thing to do. It gave law enforcement time to figure out what was going on. Security at the Superdome has always been amazing. They have tons of profile events there. They know how to sweep the area and look for bombs or anything like that. But just giving them a day to kind of settle in, I think helped. I thought, I guess we should go back. The very first game, New Year's Eve, Penn State 31, Boise State 14. I thought my boy Ashton Ginty would get him more yards than he got. I thought Boise State would put up a bigger fight. Michelle, what happened to Boise State?
They ran into that Penn State team that we said they just win, and we don't know how. That defense, man, they were smothering Ginty, and they were making sure that he wasn't going to have a breakout performance, although he did get over 100 yards, and they've only did that twice. that season. So he actually still had a decent game against them, but they were ready for him. They were ready for him. And once you stopped him, I think that just slowed down the whole Boise State offense. They look so out of sync. But he still proved to me that he can run with the big boys. And he was, in spite of them keying on him and waiting on him to get the ball, he had some tough runs. He had some hard runs, but he always gets a lot of carries. So, but he still got over 100 yards, and that's what you want to see from him. So, but that Penn State team again, they don't excite you. You're not going to sit there and be like, oh, this. They play hard-nosed, tough. They don't change their uniforms. They don't change their helmets. They don't change their game. They played their game. They look like Penn State of old. And I mean, they just destroyed them. I expected it to be better, but hey, I keep saying I don't know how Penn State keeps doing it, but they're doing it.
Yep. Sonia, I saw a lot of people on social media kind of they I don't even know if they watched the game. They just saw the final score and they were like, "Oh, this is going to hurt, Ashton's draft stock." I don't think it will. What do you think?
No, I don't think it will because, and first off, hi, Kristen. Hi, Bob. Hi, everybody in the chat. Y'all are watching on Twitter or Facebook. Head over to YouTube so you can chat with us because we love the interaction. Now, I don't think that's going to hurt his draft stock because he made adjustments. And I know that at the beginning of the game, they're like, man, he only has 36 rushing yards or something like that. But he finished up with over 100. So he made some adjustments. He was able to keep kind of grinding and doing what you love to see out of a running back who knows that guys are coming for him. And so that's why I don't think it hurt his draft stock.
Yeah, I agree. I think, to Michelle's point, Penn State did exactly what they had to. They took Boise State's one weapon and they zeroed in on him. And I think the way they were effective in the first half against him really highlighted the fact that Boise State was letting him be their offense. Their offense lived and died by how well he did. And they finally met up against a team who was able to stop him. And it took them too long to figure out how to get around that. And there wasn't enough game to come back from that. So Penn State was the first team to move on to, I believe it's the Orange Bowl. And they had a little bit of time to sit and wait and find out who their opponent was going to be. On January 1st, we started the day at the Peach Bowl with Texas 39, Arizona State 31. That game went to overtime. Whole lot of controversy in that game. There were some targeting non-calls, and I love all the amateur cameramen who are posting video online, and I love the NCAA is still backing the referees. Y'all, that was targeting. And the field goal that got tipped and then hit the ground and then went in, that was all over the Twitter. That should have counted. There were all kinds of people complaining about that one. Michelle, any thoughts on either of those calls?
Just win, baby. That's all I know is just win, baby. Listen, from the history of time that I've been watching sports, human error plays a part of it. There are calls that are missed. There are calls that are given. There are calls that make you say, what the? So, I mean, it's going to happen. At the end of the day, you got to win. You have to overcome because I mean, we can say that it was a targeting call. I personally, you know how I feel about the targeting call. So I don't like that call. I don't like that part of the game. I didn't think that he targeted him. I think he just tackled him up high and his head is on his shoulder, is going to hit. And so he didn't launch into him. He didn't put, it didn't happen. But, we saw another one that they could have called the opposite. I thought the other one was more of a targeting call than that one. And they didn't call that. So that means that they were going to let them play. So if when they let you play and they do things, if you can find something that they let go on both sides, then it's an equal game. Because referees either got to be good on both sides or bad on both sides, and as long as they do it equally, it's a fair game. And so the calls happen. So and who's to say we have no? All it did was gave them a first down. We can't say that they were going to score a touchdown. They were going to make a field goal. We have no idea. It just gives you a first down. And so, but at the end of the day, they had so many other opportunities to win the game. It went into overtime. So that you went when you went overtime is 0-0.
Yep. That was my response to a couple of them was, but you didn't get the field goal. It didn't count.
Right.
You didn't get the penalty. You were down 17-3 at halftime. That's for me when this game was over, when Arizona State lost. Yeah, they came back and put up 16 points in the fourth quarter to take it to overtime, but you had your opportunities. And again, once you get to overtime, all right, get over it. It's 0-0, score. Texas scored, they scored. Texas scored, they didn't.
Yeah.
Because I actually thought that he pushed off on that long pass. He made a great pass, but he clearly pushed off offensive pass interference that they did not call. So again, the referees decided they were not going to be involved in making these decisions on the game. They let them play. You take it as, because I'm looking at that. I was like, pass interference, but they didn't call it, and I have no problem with it.
Michelle, I hadn't thought of it that way, but all the complaints were about the calls that weren't made.
Right.
And you're right. It was on both sides. The refs were just letting them play.
Yep.
So Texas, as the winner of that, moves on to, what is it called? The Cotton Bowl. And they're sitting around waiting to see who they were going to play. And they didn't have to wait long, because right afterwards we had the Rose Bowl, the granddaddy of them all. Ohio State 41, Oregon 21. Sonia, I don't feel like, I'm going to ask you, how do you feel?
Okay.
Was Oregon ever in this game?
Nope. I don't think they were. I mean, Ohio State, y'all were mad.
It was 34-8 at halftime.
At halftime. I mean, Oregon didn't know what hit them. They did not know what hit them. They were shell-shocked. I mean, and I actually stopped watching because I was like, okay, they're not going to. Greg was like,
having that week off, did that week off hurt them?
Oregon? I think it did. I think that they thought, we did this once, we're gonna do it again. They weren't ready for what was coming. A mad Ohio State team.
And y'all know how I feel about my Buckeyes. I wanted Ryan Day gone after that Saturday in November. I didn't think this team had what it took. Michelle, was that loss to Michigan some kind of a wake-up call to the Buckeyes? Because it's been a whole different team since then.
It's funny because we talked about them in our last outing, and I said, well, when you talked about him being fired, and I'm like, not going to happen, because he can't beat Michigan, but they tear everybody else up.
Everybody.
That's exactly what they did. And I also referenced with Harbaugh and how he couldn't beat you guys, but he still won a national championship. That's the thing. Ohio State looks good, and they took control of the game. I mean, they punched Oregon State in the mouth from the start, and I did not. I refused. I was coming from somewhere, and I looked at the score, and I'm like, what? And so and it was like the first quarter, and I'm like, oh wow. So I didn't. I'm like Sonia. I stopped watching the game. I think I watched up to halftime, and I was like, there was no way they were coming back. So
there wasn't enough clock.
It wasn't enough clock. It wasn't enough clock
for Oregon
whatever
to
they
come back.
needed. Yeah, they weren't getting them. I was like, they're not coming back.
So that victory sent Ohio State to face Texas. We will see them on Friday at 7:30 p.m. in the Cotton Bowl. Should be interesting. And then we had Notre Dame against Georgia, 2-3, got moved to January 2nd. Started off a little slow, but eventually Notre Dame handled their business. They were up 13-3 at the half, and then they just seemed to get them right. It was a whole lot of defense in that first quarter, and Notre Dame got it done. Did either of you get a chance to watch that one? Thoughts on what happened to Georgia? I feel like Georgia just kind of rolled over.
I think Georgia ran out of steam in that game. I think that, they've had a great run. And I just think this time they just were kind of done. They were tapped. Who was their quarterback? It wasn't their normal one. I can't remember who it was, but it wasn't their regular one. So I think they were just like, we'll give it a go, but I don't think we're going to. This was not the team.
Oh, Gunnar Stockton.
Yeah, Gunnar Stockton. And it wasn't their regular quarterback. So I think that they were just kind of, we'll just let it ride. But I mean, again, they were down.
Their biggest rusher, Etienne, had 38 yards.
Yeah, they just kind of mailed it in. But like when they were down at Texas, you kind of thought they might be able to come back. They might, but nah, they didn't. They didn't. And Notre Dame actually looked very good. Their defense was very stout. I think I was very surprised by that. I don't know why, but I just was. So yeah, but their defense was on point. So
well, and what was weird to me, Michelle, is their leading rusher had 80 yards, and it was their quarterback, Riley Leonard.
Yeah, he makes plays, and that's how he's played all year. Like he comes in and he runs and he makes plays. He's not the best passer, but he can run the ball. And I remember saying last time we were on about Notre Dame being probably one of the better teams, but because they don't have a conference, they can't be in the top 4. So woe to the people who have to play them, because they could be one of the best teams in there. They look pretty good. I mean, everybody's bashing these playoffs. I've truly enjoyed the playoffs. I mean, I don't care who got beat. They earned their right to be beaten. So they earned their right to be there, and then they lost, and that happens. So now we're moving on, and now we have the Final Four, and we're ready to go.
Yes.
So Notre Dame, number 3, gets Penn State, number 5, tomorrow at 7:30 in the Orange Bowl.
Next
you got 3 against 5, and then 4 against 6. Sonia, could we get an all Big Ten championship game?
We sure could. I think Texas, Ohio State is going to be very interesting. I think that's the best game this week. They're both good. But I think Texas, Ohio State is going to be really good, because Texas, to me, this year, for the most part, was what Michigan was last year. So I think that's going to be really kind of fun. They've been banged up, Texas has, and their quarterback situation isn't as stable.
It's fluid.
It's very fluid. It's fluid. But I think this is going to be a very good game.
Michelle, I really want to pick Notre Dame because they have been so good.
Agreed.
But again, Penn State just keeps winning. What do we get? Are you picking one?
It's a defensive battle. It's going to be a defensive battle. It's hard to go with the way Penn State won and the way Ohio State won. It's hard to go against either of those teams. I think Texas, it all depends on how Ewers plays. If they can get him to play and he has to play his best game, they can win. But if he doesn't, if he plays like he's playing, it gets harder for them because they seem to struggle to score. Their defense is helping them, but it gets harder for them. But man, I don't know. Notre Dame, they look so well since they lost that game early on and everybody wanted Freeman fired. And all the Notre Dame people, we was like after one game. So I want to pick well, you know why I want to pick Notre Dame. I'm just being biased. No, I hate Notre Dame and I want to pick Notre Dame. But I just don't know. It's hard to go against Penn State the way they've looked in these playoffs. So but if I
struggle with that. Second half of that Arizona State Texas game, I'm screaming at my TV for them to take Ewers out and put Manning in. I'm like, he is not playing well. He's making stupid mistakes. He's getting sacked in situations where you can't take a sack. Ohio State will take advantage of that kind of behavior. Is there any chance if he does that again that they pull him and put Manning in?
I don't think so. I don't think that you do that. I think that this is the quarterback that's gotten you here. This has been your leader all season. And if he struggles, you go in and you go down with him. This is not the time to pull him out and then put somebody else in. Who hasn't done that job for you. I mean, you got to give him an opportunity to pull himself back up. And he's looked bad in a lot of games, and they were still able to win because he was able to make plays when he needed to make plays. And so I think, that's what you do. You go with your quarterback.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
I think if it wasn't Manning, people wouldn't be saying put him in. But just because the other guy's name is Manning, people want to put him in because they want to see him. But I don't think it's the right thing to do.
Right.
We watched the games. We saw him. You're right, though. I think there are a lot of people who just hear the name, who didn't actually see him play, who were yelling to put him in. And I understand where you're coming from. Where I struggle is I'm a huge Notre Dame fan, but I'm a huge Buckeyes fan. I can't have them playing each other. Like that, I can't. And then there's a part of me that as much as I love Notre Dame, I'm aggravated by the fact that they won't join a conference. So I want them to lose, because if they win and get to the championship, they're going to be like, see, we don't need to be in a conference. We can still get to the championship. And so I need them to lose so I can keep trying in vain to get them to just join the Big Ten and be done. But
Agreed.
I'm a struggle if I have to pick between Notre Dame and Ohio State.
Well, and those the thing, because I hate Ohio State and Notre Dame and Alabama, and those are the worst two teams. But those might be the people I pick. What you say? Sorry.
But that's an Ohio thing. We are big Buckeyes fans, and half of the Buckeye fans I know are also Notre Dame fans. I don't know if it's because they're Catholic. I don't know where that Notre Dame, like their non-Big Ten team, is Notre Dame, and it's just my husband has a T-shirt that has Notre Dame on one side and Ohio State on the other. I'm like, oh, you can't wear that for the games this week. You can't.
No, you can't do that.
He's like, no, I want them both to win. I'm like, right.
No.
And then you got them in the championship. I can't have them both in the championship. And I'd rather have Ohio State. I'd rather have Ohio State, Penn State.
I really would too. And you know why? Because finally we could say the Big Ten is in there, right?
That they're the best conference this year.
This year, at least this year. Maybe not of all time. But at least this year.
Maybe not of all time, but I
representing.
think the past couple years, I think that they have been very good. I think the addition of Oregon just brings it up. Granted, they laid an egg, but still, I think that Ohio State, Penn State would be really good.
Yeah, well, I looked at Ohio State and all I could think about was Kate, and I was like, I just smiled because I'm like, I know she's somewhere smiling, and,
right?
So. You know, that was good.
I tell you that one of the most fun things in all these games was watching the coaches arguing from across the field at each other. Was that Texas, Arizona, or was that Boise State? There was one of them where they were almost like
they were going to fight. I think that was
coaching staff was holding the one back to keep him from charging across the field.
Yeah.
And then Kirby Smart for Georgia was trying to pull some stuff against Notre Dame. They were doing that same thing, that waiting late to substitute, and you have to give the defense time to substitute, and the offense would have to take a timeout they didn't want to take. And they were just like, yeah, I see you. You're going to have to substitute earlier.
But he got upset when they put 5 in on that, when they thought they were going to, I didn't think they were going to hike the ball myself. And they actually did, but he was pissed off about that.
Yeah, he had the whole 5 ready to go, and then he was.
But the refs let him. They waited and let him, make the adjustments. But that's one of the huge differences. There's so many that I've noticed between college football and the NFL. Is in the NFL they don't wait for you to make a substitution. That catch you with your pants down, it don't matter. In college, they can't snap the ball until. If you change people out, the defense has the right to change them back in. They have to hurry about it. They can't be all like, oh, give me a couple minutes to look at my personnel packages. But you got to at least wait for them to come in. I struggled in one of the games. I think it was the Ohio State game with the way they painted the end zones. Because there was like a white line or box around Oregon and Ohio State, and then there was like more green and then another white line before you got to the field, like different shades. And so I'm like, that's not a touchdown. He's still got another yard to go. But that's the way they drew the boxes. It was very confusing for my oldness when they do those weird things with the end zone. I need a big of white
line where the end zone is so I know if they're in or not.
Yeah. Speaking of white lines, which team, who got in trouble? Which player was that? Was on the sideline cheering.
Oh, Georgia,
right. Everybody was upset. I'm like, well, it is this big, thick white line that he's not supposed to be on because that's where the refs have to run. So, I mean, it's a penalty. You should. First of all, kid, you got on sweatpants. You shouldn't even be up there. You should be standing on the benches trying to see over the players.
Right.
Yeah, we were watching that, and my husband and my daughter's boyfriend were like, what they thought they were penalizing one of the players in the play. And they're like, he didn't step out. I'm like, no, someone stepped in.
Yes.
And then we watched again. You could see the guy behind him. And I'm like, you can't get in the referee's way.
He's in the referee's way. If you trip them, that's it. Flag.
Exactly.
You in the sweatpants, step aside.
Get back, coach. That's what we need.
I felt bad for him, though, because he was getting death threats and all kind of stuff. And I'm like, this kid did not lose the game. Well, I mean,
no. He wasn't even dressed. Blame the people on the field. Let's start there.
Right.
I'm super excited about the games this week. But I did want to send a shout out to our girl Dana. The Mountain West Championships were this week, and her Montana State
FCS championship.
FCS went down to North Dakota State 35-32. Was a good game. They took them a little long to get moving. She said North Dakota State is just a powerhouse. Montana was down like 21-3 at the half. They put up 15 points in the third quarter. It was not enough. Not enough to get them where they needed to go. But
I know, poor Bob.
Great season.
They almost did,
North Dakota and Montana.
Yeah, great game. But the FCS playoffs has always been good, and the championships are usually pretty good. Right now FBS is copying FCS. So the only thing I don't like about the playoffs is how the time in between. I feel like it's just too much time in between because I forget about their games. That's just what happens. Like, okay, they're not done. I'm like, they should be done. Like, then that's probably because I'm old. When January gets here, college football is supposed to be over.
Right.
So all of those unnecessary bowl games, I'm like, they're just in the way, and we really you guys need to move them back so that we can get this on earlier.
I want to back the entire season up a week. Okay. Ohio State, Michigan can be the last week of the season instead of the week before the last week of the season. You have that Thanksgiving weekend is the end of the season. Then the next week you have your conference championships, and then bam, your playoffs need to start. Yeah. There's too much time off in between. I'd like to back it up a week also because I think there were still, again, this year, some guys that sat out of bowl games because they wanted to enter the transfer portal and they had to report to their new schools. If you backed it up a week, I think it would give them more time to actually maybe be in a bowl game and then still enter the portal. So I think we've had more people in the playoffs actually play because there are 12 teams and because there were so many weeks of it. I know in prior years, Nick Bosa's one, took a lot of criticism back in the day because he didn't play in Ohio State's bowl game that year because the draft was coming up. And this playoff, I just feel like the games have all been really good. For all the people that have complained that they didn't like the 12 teams that were selected and they didn't like any of that, I still feel like we've gotten a bunch of really good games. There hasn't been a 40-0 beatdown. These teams have all shown up pretty well, I think.
Agreed. The one thing I know is they're going to be complaining every year. So no matter what.
Oh, for sure.
No matter what, they're going to be complaints because everybody wants their team to make it. Everybody, and they're
Alabama fans. I was like, sit down. You would have lost to any one of these teams.
They should have been in the playoffs. I'm like, how? Like,
right.
Yeah. Like, who are you taking out?
Yeah. We're not taking anybody out. Indiana didn't deserve. Yes, they did. They earned the right to lose. They did. They earned that right to be there. So, know.
All right. Well, we got two really good games coming up this week. And then so tomorrow and Friday, and then the championship game is on January 10th.
On January 20th. Boo-boo.
What is January? Oh, that's the semis. You're right. January 20th. Yeah. Friday is the 10th.
So prolonged. I miss it every year because I forget about it. I'm like, okay, it's pro football playoffs now. That's all I'm thinking about. So
and I think that's why this one is so late. So the last game is this Friday, and then they have 10 days until they put. But you're right. Pro football playoffs are this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the following weekend it'll be Saturday, Sunday. So then the college game will be Monday night. So I think that stretch of 10 days is going to be rough because I would like it to just be done this week. So that's what I'm saying. If they back the whole thing up a week, we could have a championship this week before the NFL stuff starts. You could do it Friday night before the NFL playoffs.
Kristen's laughing because I said they earned the right to lose.
They earned the right to go to a bowl game because they still got paid. They still got a piece of that bowl money. Big Ten Conference had the most teams in bowl games that won, and even the losers, they all get a percentage of that money. All the conferences put that in a bucket and share it equally. So even teams who didn't go to a big bowl game, a playoff bowl game, obviously these ones are bigger money, but even the little bowl games, they get something, and that goes into a pot. It goes back to the football programs. I love that about it. And this gives us more opportunities for that. So I've talked a lot. My throat hurts. Any final thoughts, Sonia, on the games we got coming up tomorrow and Friday?
No, I think they're going to be great ones. I can't wait to watch them.
Did we make predictions?
I don't know.
We're all afraid to make predictions.
Well, I guess we got.
I'm for sure picking Ohio State. Let me get a quarter out and I'll flip it, and we'll see
who's playing now. Penn State versus Notre Dame.
Penn State is heads. Notre Dame is tails. Ready?
I'm going. Okay. Oh, you flip it.
What did I say? Penn State is heads.
Penn State is heads.
It's heads.
Penn State.
So I'm going Notre Dame. My nickel knows anything about football, my nickel is picking Penn State.
I'm going Notre Dame by 4.
I'm saying Notre Dame by 3.
I think that game will be closer than the Ohio State-Texas game.
Oh, Texas, Ohio State.
I say...
I'm saying the is going to win. The Ohio State will win.
I was about to say that school in Ohio, they'll probably win.
If they play the way they played the last 2 games,
they will.
Texas is going to have their hands full. We'll see. Yep. All right, ladies.
All right, y'all.
Next week, we'll talk about the championship, and then I think we'll have a week or 2 to talk about some combine and draft stuff. It has been so fun. I just want to say this. Yes. Talking college football all season with you. Thank you to Kristen and all the other folks who've been in the chat with us.
We love you.
We got a couple more shows. Hopefully you've had a better college season experience because we've given you a little bit of knowledge. We've been talking to Ashton Ginty and Travis Hunter since I had to mention Travis. We haven't mentioned him all show. We were talking about him week 1, and they both showed up and showed out this season. So good on them.
They did.
All right.
Enjoyed it. All right. Until next time.
Bye.